Welcome to the Boston Bros Political Podcast. I am Jim Campanini, co-host of the show, with my good friend, Boston Herald political columnist Peter Lucas, who writes a column 3 times a week, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday in the Herald. You have to read it. It's a must read if you want to expand your intelligence, okay, at least get a different viewpoint of what is going on. You got to read Peter Lucas. So, Peter, how you been this week?
Well, with that intro, everything else got to be downhill from here.
Well, the historical perspective and what's going on. I mean, your column should be a must-read for political science majors who are interested both in Boston politics, regional politics, and national politics. I mean, you've covered it all in your 5 decades and more of covering some of the top leaders of this state, region, and
the best is yet to come.
Yes. And I loved your fact-based reporting and opinion columns. But, you know, it was a real difficult and terrible week for America. The shootings in Minnesota, of all the places, it just was startling that the former, I guess was the Senate president there, she was shot, her husband was killed. The guy even killed the dog. Then he went after another state legislative leader, shot the husband and the wife. They're in serious critical condition. They might, looks like they might pull through, but there was a manhunt. And you know what? You know, the media, both sides of the media trying to find out who this shooter was, what political affiliation he was, you know. So you know, the initial press coverage, I mean, they either wanted to say it was Trump's fault or the Democrats' fault or this or that. And yet you got a pretty good take on this.
Well, my take is, if anyone is to blame, it's the politicians. They're the ones who have hyped up the rhetoric to such a degree that I haven't seen or heard about before. They go around calling Trump Hitler. What do you expect is going to happen if you go around calling Hitler, who's probably is the worst human being ever to walk the planet, and you compare Trump to Hitler? That automatically sets off some deranged people roaming this country to do deranged things. And that's what this was, a deranged act by a deranged individual.
Yeah.
And the media is to blame, too, because they hype up all this anti-Trump rhetoric. And it has an effect on people, particularly people who don't have it all together.
Now, the sad thing about this, reading deeper into the story, the woman who was killed, was it Hoffman, or there was a Hortman and a Hoffman, okay, the 2 different families. And she had just she was a Democrat the only Democrat who joined with the Republicans to end, I guess, health benefits to illegal immigrants in Minnesota. So the bill passed by 1 vote, and they think this was set off this shooter who you know, I don't know where he stood, because they said he worked for Governor Walz, who was the vice presidential member on the ticket with Kamala Harris. Was that confirmed that he was at one point an appointee by?
He did work for the governor in some commission capacity, but he was no big advisor or anything like that.
No. And judging by his website, I mean, he and his wife had a security firm that was bogus, but he had all kinds of things on his website that were later taken down. I mean, he went off the deep end. But here she is. I mean, in some quarters, she deserves a profile and courage that she split from the Democrats, and she started getting hateful phone calls. Her own colleagues were calling her a traitor and stuff. And you know what? I mean, you're right. I mean, she did her job. okay? And she did what she thought was best for the people of Minnesota. They, just like Massachusetts, were being strangled by this money, taxpayers' money they were putting up for all this overwhelming influx of illegal immigrants who are taking more and more of the benefits packages from U.S. citizens. And, she's a Democrat, and she finally saw the light, and she says, this can't continue.
But, I go back to this. You got to get the politicians to stop insulting one another and calling each other names. And this fellow here, who knows what he was planning back when he had guns, he had bombs, he had all sorts of stuff stored in his house. He'd probably been planning something like this for years, and it's just something set him off. And all this nasty rhetoric doesn't help. It's got to end. It's got to end.
And you know what? I give credit to the law enforcement in Minnesota. They call them the State Patrol.
Did a hell of a job.
Yes, they found out about the first shooting, and right away they put it together. They went to the second house, the second lawmaker. They confronted the guy as he was at the front door, and he just shot the other couple, but he wasn't able to finish them off. And they got in a shootout with him. And it saved these people's lives. Naturally, he got away initially, and then they corralled him a couple of days later. But God bless them that they responded so quickly and courageously, and maybe saved. Hopefully, they saved 2 lives, the husband and wife. They were too unfortunately. They were too late responding to the first home. But what got me too, that Minnesota, they haven't used the death penalty, I don't think, since before World War I, and now they're saying this, and it's a very liberal state. They're saying that this suspect might face the death penalty. Well, we'll see. But he deserves to face the death penalty. It'll send a message, against these people going after, politicians and lawmakers who get elected by the people. Whether you agree with them or not, you vote them out of office if you don't like them. You don't.
Well, that's why we have elections.
Yes, that's why we have elections.
So
but
anyway.
To your point, it's true. They got to dial back some of this rhetoric. Democrats, Republicans, Libertarians. You got to learn. You got to get back to the compromise, the civil dialogue, and this insulting behavior that's going on. It's just it's terrible for America. I think it weakens us, and diminishes our soul. It's terrible. Anything more to add on that?
No, that's about it.
So we had another big week. Trump had his G7 summit, and we'll talk a little about that. He left early to come back from Canada to go to the White House as everything was raging in Israel and Iran. But our own governor, she had her own summit in Massachusetts.
Yeah, we had the H7 and the Healy 7. While Trump was holding...
Elaborate.
Well, while Trump was attending the G7 conference in Canada, Healy held her own conference at the State House with New England governors and a couple of premiers from Canada to talk about tariffs, their opposition to Trump's tariffs, of which they can't do anything about. And they met at the State House, and after a long meeting, which even Governor Hochul of New York attended, they decided to hold another meeting.
I think they now was this meeting? I mean, something that was supposed to involve tourism too, and or just tariffs. I thought Canada and the U.S. just worked on a framework for a deal. For tariffs and cooperation. So why is Healy inviting 2 premiers from Canada into?
That's a pretty good question.
Was it lobster lunch or something?
I don't know what it was, but it reminded me if you ever watched The Five on national television. Whoopi Goldberg, The Fives. It didn't look like. That's what it reminded me of.
Yeah.
But presumably they had a good time, but accomplished not much.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, even the coverage was weak. I mean, there was really nothing to come out of it. I think it was just another stunt.
Well, it was an anti-Trump stunt, is what it was.
Yeah, and I don't even know if all the governors from New England attended.
Well, Governor Kelly Ayotte of New Hampshire did not attend.
Yeah,
she was probably the smartest one in the group.
Yeah, because the governor from Maine was there.
Janet Mills, yeah, she was there. Well, the Trump haters were there.
Yeah.
Governor Hochul of New York and Janet Mills of Maine, and of course Maura Healey, who hosted it, and somebody from Connecticut. I don't know who, but that was
And the only major news to come out of it was that they agreed to meet again. So it must have been a pretty good lobster dinner or something. Maybe they had some crab cakes sent up from Baltimore or something. But I'll tell you, you think with all the issues going on in Massachusetts, that Governor Healey would be expending more of her energy and time on getting the legislature to pass a comprehensive bill of any kind. I mean, they've been meeting now for 2 years. They've done very little of consequence. I think they've passed five bills in the 2 years, and nothing of any major impact, while leaving a bunch of stuff on the table. And this shelter, this illegal immigrant shelter situation that Massachusetts is in, is just continuing to spiral out of control. Matter of fact, your newspaper, the Boston Herald, has a wonderful read in today's paper. I'm just going to show the chart. Now, Governor Healey's plan is to, she's closed down. She says she's closed down shelters, and she has. Some of them are closed down. She's consolidated and stuff, and she says that we just can't sustain these costs. Well, look at this headline. Shelter costs approach $1 billion. So they're still going to hit the target number, and you wonder why. And now the Healey administration is getting an audit from the auditor's office. She's looking in. She's calling for an investigation, into the contract for the food, because that was out of control. I mean, she gave it to a major donor who owns the company in Revere. Okay, and there were all kinds of complaints about the service, the food, but it was a no-bid contract. I mean, just every day there's just something new on this, and so the state has already spent $130 million through fiscal year to year, which ends July 1. $1 billion plus is projected, and $679 million spent on direct shelter costs. I mean, it just doesn't add up with all the problems we have, education, infrastructure problems. The high cost of living in Massachusetts. I mean, every day it's a new story. And the people at the Healey administration and at the legislature, which is dominated by Democrats, they just have these rose-colored glasses on, and they point the finger at Trump for everything, when these issues started well before Trump was president. Well, is he the foil for everything?
Everything's fine if you work at the State House. There are no problems because, the money is always there, ready to be spent. I've covered the legislature, for many years, and sometimes it's not a bad thing if they do nothing. Mm-hmm. Leave well enough alone, so to speak, because every time they enact a bill or do anything at all, it costs taxpayers more money. And look at this, the shelter costs, for instance. Who would have thought it would approach $1 billion? I think it's more than $1 billion a year right now.
Oh, yeah.
And the irony is Democrats like Healey and the rest, Mayor Wu of Boston, constantly criticize Trump on his deportation policy, but never give him credit for shutting down the border. Just think, had Trump not been elected, and the border would be open still, and immigrants still coming over the border, and particularly coming to Massachusetts, which is a generous welfare state, that $1 billion would be $5 billion by now, and the immigrants would keep on coming. But rather than, give Trump credit for shutting down the border, because the latest statistics showed this past month there was 0 immigrants crossing the border illegally. They criticize him. It's a no-win situation as far as Trump is concerned.
Well, I see, Governor Healy and some Democrat politicians have softened their stance and said, well, Trump should just concentrate on the criminal illegal aliens and taking them off the streets, and everybody else, he just leave them alone. Well, that only came after, Tom Holman and his gang from ICE came in here and started, arresting the people who are in this country illegally. And,
that's after he arrested 1,500 in Massachusetts.
1,500, 679 who were the worst criminals you could think of.
Right.
They were convicts from their own country: murder, extortion, larceny, burglary, assaults, pedophiles. And now even Mayor Wu from Boston, she says, well, she wants ICE to give them a heads up or give them background
so they can
people they're going to arrest.
So they can tip them off in advance.
Slowly they're coming around to realizing, hey, and Wu calls Boston the safest big city in America and stuff. And then when people start reading these headlines every day, oh, this murderer taken off the street, this gangbanger who was smuggling sex trafficking and smuggling people into America, and it just keeps adding up, and people finally say, hey, what the hell has been going on?
The Democrats just refuse to recognize the fact that if someone breaks into the country illegally, it's a crime. If you're an illegal or an immigrant and you've done that, you've committed a crime. And but as far as the Democrats around here are concerned, it's not a crime. And in fact, they don't even refer to them as immigrants or illegal immigrants. You crash into Boston or into Massachusetts, you're suddenly a resident. They call you a resident.
Yeah.
And pretty soon you'll be, part of the census as a resident, and you'll be counted as an American, and before you know it, you'll be voting.
Well,
and I think that's the aim of the whole thing anyway.
You want to make Massachusetts better, you better deal with the healthcare crisis, hospitals shutting down, nurses, very competent, qualified nurses, leaving the healthcare system to go into these concierge services. They're working for private companies, and there's doctors now unionizing because they're underpaid, working overworked hours, and they're leaving the Commonwealth. You see this out-migration of these professional people in the healthcare industry in Massachusetts, which always was considered one of the best in America. Well, you've had 11 hospitals file for bankruptcy or on the cusp of bankruptcy, and there's really nothing that's going on to try to buck up this system or change it. You keep hearing talks, oh, the providers are charging too much, we're going to change the rates. Yeah, well, that's part of the problem, but still, you're not attracting the talent and retaining it.
Well, that in and of itself has a lot in common with California. People are leaving California. People on a smaller scale are leaving Massachusetts.
Yeah, and it's just it just keeps adding on. Week after week, more stories or studies come out with data. Massachusetts is an expensive state. It costs too much to live here.
It's California without the weather.
It's California without the weather, and yes, there is an out-migration, and yet, some of the we get the millionaires tax in this state. Now, there's criticism in some quarters, even from some Democrats, who are starting to look at it and say, gee, maybe we should look to even reform that law, which is, I think, 2 years old, 2 or 3 years old. Healy's initial comments suggest that she might take a look at it, and now she's backtracking on that because of the advocates who get money from that millionaire's tax.
We don't repeal taxes in Massachusetts.
No. So
we just add on.
so I think it's just going to get worse in the future, but. Here we are, still at a war point. We're on a war footing with the Trump administration, and we're concerned about losing all this federal funding that still has not been resolved. Our congressional delegation has done nothing. No one has picked up the phone. So all this uncertainty, the bridges, Cape Cod. Why would you want to go to Cape Cod? I don't know. Once you get there, the food is overpriced, the lodging costs too much, the weather's been bad, and the traffic congestion is ridiculous.
Well, you might want to go to bump into Obama or John Kerry.
All right. Speaking, that you gave me a great segue. All right. The state of Israel, takes Iran by surprise, launches an air assault, a missile assault over the weekend. I was shocked when I woke up and found out that Israel attacked the 4 or 5 sites where Iran hosts its nuclear facilities, okay? And boy, did they do a job. They continue with their airstrikes, took out a lot of the surface-to-surface missile launches that Iran has. Supposedly, according to President Trump and Israeli President Netanyahu, Iran has been rendered useless as far as an air defense system. So they're defenseless as far as that is concerned. And Israel continues to send wave after wave of fighter jets and bombing specific targets in Israel. In Iran. Iran has retaliated with missiles and done some damage in Tel Aviv and other Israeli cities. There have been deaths on both sides. And where is this going? Where is this heading?
I think this is the end of Iran as we know it. I think this is the end of Khomeini and the mullahs who have run that country into the ground with an extreme, violent, religious sect that has kept the people down for so long. I think even the Iranian people are rooting for the Israelis to finish them off so they could have a decent government that they once had years ago.
Well, Trump denied that he left the G7 meeting because of the Israeli-Iran.
He probably left because he had a sip beside Macron.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, and tired of hearing him complain about his wife who pushed him on the plane. But I think there was something going on because he met with his cabinet right away. And you know what? I think this is a time when all Americans should come together. This is a real opportunity for not only America and Israel, but the entire free world that has been held hostage by these mullahs in Iran ever since the Jimmy Carter days in the 70s when they took the American embassy in Iran.
54 American hostages.
And since then, they've vowed to kill Americans wherever, whenever they can, and
they
have
have
opportunity.
even before that.
And they have. Yeah.
Remember the Marine barracks?
Yes, in Lebanon.
In Lebanon, 200 Marines were killed when they blew up the hotel that they was bivouacked at.
They funded terrorism through Hezbollah, Hamas.
Now, what people should remember, they're on the verge of getting a nuclear weapon and the means of delivering it. Not only into the East, Middle East, but in Europe and even the East Coast of the United States. They have stated over and over again, once they have a nuclear bomb, the first one they'll use on Israel, the second one they'll use on the United States. If that's not enough to wipe these mullahs off the face of the earth, I don't know what is.
Yeah. Well, going back to what I was saying is, appeasement is not a strategy anymore. We learned that under the Obama administration, 2012. Obama and Kerry hatched a plan thinking that they could trust Iran and the mullahs with their nuclear program, that they would, just use the nuclear enrichment process to get uranium for peaceful means and stuff. Well, you know what? We released Biden released the $800 billion back to Iran that had been frozen. And this is what we get for it. 8 years, 12 years, of basically violence across the globe. And you know what? Now is the time to really end this, take it out, get the world a reset. I mean, Iran is an axis of evil. They're drawing closer and closer with North Korea, Russia, and China. If you could take out one of these bad actors, evil actors, now is the time to do it. I hate to say it. I'm not a warmonger, but you have an opportunity. And it's amazing how some leaders in Europe now, after looking to the United States to do something, in the past, all right, now they're getting weak kneed again and saying, well, maybe now we should go back to the negotiating table. No, you got them on the ropes. And it's hopefully Trump knows enough to finish the job, because we've got them at the breaking point. Don't let them off. You need a regime change there.
I have no doubt Donald Trump will finish the job. But in effect, what has taken place right now, Israel is doing the United States and Western Europe and probably Western civilization a big favor. Imagine Iran running around with nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
Look at the damage they've done without nuclear weapons with their proxies.
Oh, yeah.
Who knows how many agents they've snuck into the United States under Joe Biden's open border policy. Who knows how many are roaming the country now, planning to blow up this, that, or the other U.S. facility.
Yeah, well, you're right, because intelligence, U.S. intelligence assessment said, the consequence of doing something necessary and drastic against Iran would probably initiate some of these sleeper cells that are not only in the U.S. and waiting for the green light, but also in other democratic nations throughout the world. And Khomeini, Ayatollah Khomeini, might have alluded to that overnight. He made a cryptic post showing bombs dropping from the sky and stuff in his post and stuff, and saying, "You have not seen the last of it yet. We will never surrender. The Iranian people do not surrender." Well, I think the Iranian people are separate from the regime, the terrorist regime.
Let me tell you what's different this time and with Donald Trump. This is the first time since the end of World War II, 80-odd years ago, that I've heard the phrase unconditional surrender. That's what Trump has said to Iran. He wants an unconditional surrender. We have not used that phrase since World War II, when we insisted that the war would not end until Germany surrendered unconditionally, and the same with the Japanese Empire.
So what exactly does that mean, unconditional surrender?
There are no conditions. That we'll decide the future of your country is going to take shape, like we did at the end of World War II in Europe and in Japan. And hopefully, there are Iranians, citizens in Iran, will come to the forefront and take control of their country after Khomeini and the mullahs are wiped out.
Yeah, yeah. I saw some groups and leaders, both here and in Europe, asking for the opposition groups, which are democratically inspired in Iran, to start rallying and maybe overthrow the regime. Although it's very difficult when the Revolutionary Guard and everybody, the Cuds and everything else, they control the ammunition.
Look, I think the bottom line is, as far as the Democrats are concerned, unconditional surrender to them means opening up the border again.
Well, hopefully this thing will be resolved soon, but I hope it's done in the right way. I don't think appeasement is going to do anything. It's just going to give the Iranian terrorist regime time to resurface, strengthen itself, and just start doing whatever it's done before. And of course, they'll plead for help to rebuild whatever has been destroyed by Israel, which is
Trump is not only changing the United States, he's changing the world.
yeah. So
And the Democrats can't stand that.
I think this is a real opportunity for peace. I mean, just think what Iran. I mean, how bad and the evil they've spread throughout Europe and Africa, and it's time to end it. It's
too
time
bad.
to end it.
The Iranian people are great people. The Iranian civilization is a great civilization going back to the Persian Empire. It's only that when these crazy mullahs took over the country and turned it into a theocratic dictatorship.
Yeah. Even I think even Saudi Arabia, they won't come up and publicly say it, but I think they'd be happy. The United Arab Emirates, they've all had this threat hanging over their head all the time. Iran would do this, Iran would do that, and Iran really, they're the ones who unravel the Abraham Accords, several years ago under the first Trump administration. So, and that was to create a treaty between the Arab states and Israel. And it looked like it was going to go through. And then Iran, with their threats and undermining it, they succeeded. So, you know what? It's time to get back to the table, give the Middle East a chance to breathe and to thrive again in peace.
Rah. Cheers for that. Rah, rah.
Hoorah, hoorah. Hey, did you watch any of the 250th anniversary parade celebrating the U.S. Army?
I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it. It reminded me when I was in the military. I used to love to march in parades. You work hard and you train and you train and you train, and suddenly you're in a parade and somebody appreciates what you've done.
Well,
and I think Trump showed an appreciation to what the military has done, does, stands for, and will do to protect the United States. I thought it was great.
Well, you know what? I remember when, during the first war in Kuwait and then Afghanistan and Iraq, the Humvee was developed. Okay, because of those wars and the way they could cover ground, especially desert ground and stuff. And then the Humvee became a commercial vehicle, and they were quite popular for a while in the United States. Well, I'm waiting for Elon Musk or someone to come up with a nice commercial tank that you could drive.
Right, and he's going to send it to Mars.
But I tell you, see all those tanks. Could you imagine? I mean, there's no one who does it better than the United States. I mean, you looked at those tanks that we had from pre-World War II in their development. They were big, they were clumsy. Now you got these technologically advanced.
Let me tell you something.
They look beautiful coming down.
In all the world, there's no sound like the sound of a tank. The sound of a tank, it's a unique sound. I know. I was in the Armored Cavalry when I was in the military. I was in the Tank Corps, a regiment of tanks, and I drove a tank, and I rode in the tank, and there's nothing like it.
Well, you take the cannon fire out of them. But I tell you, seeing one of those come down the road, Massachusetts, bad enough, we got to go through potholes. Those things that give you a smooth ride.
You don't even have to see it. All you have to do is hear it. All you have to do is hear it.
I know. It's amazing. But thanks for Trump for doing something different. Of course, he got a lot of criticism for it. He's a militaristic president. Wait a minute. We're honoring the celebration of the U.S. Army and all the good and the brave, the value and the how it's protected America and all the people who've served. I mean, what is wrong with this country?
I don't know, but all these young foreigners these young illegal immigrant men, they would do well if they drafted them into the Army and give them the training that they give American boys, and they'd come out as much better individuals and probably make good citizens.
Yeah. So, you talked briefly about in the last show. Remember when the riots, of course, Newsom didn't call them riots in California, but the immigration...
Peaceful demonstrations.
Riots. Yeah, he called them peaceful demonstrations.
Looting liquor stores, trashing the cops.
600 people were arrested.
Burning cars.
Assault, so anyway, you made an interesting point. The president took a lot of heat from... the liberal elite side, the progressive side, and Newsom both activating the National Guard. Well, it's interesting that after he activated the National Guard and brought in the Marines, everything seemed to subside a little. He brought back control and everything. But you made a good point. Governor Healy criticized Trump for doing that, but I had forgotten about her, that she called out the National Guard.
Yeah, well, California and Massachusetts have a lot in common when it comes to the National Guard. Both states have called out the National Guard, but in California, it was to hinder and hamper illegal immigration action. In Massachusetts, the National Guard helps immigrants.
Yeah.
Rather than hinder
That's
them.
right. So that's what the point was. She called them to help the influx of immigrants,
Right.
help them to get the shelter.
Help them get to shelters, provide security, transportation.
Yeah. Matter of fact, you're right, Peter. Because in the chart in the Boston Herald today, $140 million of that $1 billion tab for immigrants is for security, including home base and National Guard expenses and other services. So I guess when you call out the National Guard, you got to pay for it.
Well, the difference is in Massachusetts, you're providing security for the illegal immigrants. In California, you're providing security against the illegal immigrants.
Yeah. So
talk about the armies of the night.
Well, when we were talking before the show, the image that is seared in my mind and some of my neighbors, some of the people, my Gulf mates and everything talked to, they couldn't believe the photo of Governor Maura Healey giving rosary beads, to what was his name?
The young 18-year-old Brazilian immigrant who was arrested by ICE on his way to school, driving his father's truck.
Right.
And the ICE agents were looking for his illegal immigrant father, and couldn't find him, and scooped up the son, who was also illegal immigrant.
Yeah, and he was detained until he was ordered released by a judge.
But he became a hero. He became a hero to Democrats and to the left.
So, what gets me at this point? I mean, the rosary beads she received from Pope Francis, right?
She received rosary beads from Pope Francis, the late Pope Francis, when she attended a climate change conference in Rome. And she wanted the rosary beads to be blessed by the Pope to give to her mother, who was a devout Catholic. And she brought the beads home. And when she had this young man visit the State House last week, she presented him with those rosary beads. and it was a saintly thing to do. So, in my column tomorrow, we refer to her as Saint Mara,
Well, but here's the thing.
like Joan of Arc or
Okay.
Mother Teresa.
You know what?
Doing the saintly thing.
Governor Healy can give those sanctified rosary beads to anybody she wants. But I
Yes,
just
but does that make her a regifter?
no. But my point is, I mean,
Yes. Think about that for a minute.
I don't know. It's just what was she? I mean,
And what does her mother say? Where's my beads?
yeah. I just think that the photo under the conditions of all the people, the state troopers who've died in service to this Commonwealth, police officers, people who served in the armed services, men and women who've died under terrible conditions, the Boston Marathon people who were maimed and killed in the bombing, the Sonoros and stuff. I mean, there's so many people. I'm not saying this kid. Well, I don't know why he was deserving. Yeah, he was detained, maybe wrongfully so. But ICE was after the father. You know what? That's the tool of law enforcement. You squeeze family members, not to an unlawful point, but you squeeze them to find information to get the person that you're after. Okay, and it's true. Okay, the father was a bad dude. All right, and I don't know. I mean, I'm a Catholic. I was raised a Catholic. But, there's 4 siblings in my family. My mother had several sets of rosary beads. And my oldest sister, when my mother died, she gave me one of the sets of rosary beads. And I still have it. If anybody gets that, I'm passing that on to my son, who's the oldest, and then there's my daughter. But it just I don't think it sent a really great message.
Well,
Okay, I mean, I don't know.
I go back when governors used to give out Paul Revere Bowls, judgeships, no-show jobs at the MBTA.
Yeah.
And now to give out rosary beads is sort of like setting a precedent. What's the next governor do? Does he go to Rome and get his set of rosary beads to give out? I think it's just a unhealthy mixture of state and religion.
Well,
It doesn't belong in the.
It's funny because once again, growing up Catholic, you used to get a coin or of Saint Francis. It used to be the saint of protection or travelers, And I remember my family, when he made a confirmation, they'd give all medallions and stuff. Well, you can't even give a Columbus medallion or anything.
Well, maybe now, maybe
Saint Saint Anthony,
maybe Mara Healy. Maybe Mara Healy now is a saint of illegal immigrants.
Well, she could be an icon. That's for damn sure.
I go back. I recall there was no bigger Catholic governor than John Volpe, the late John Volpe, who was governor of Massachusetts in the 60s. He was every morning he would go to Mass. He was a Knight of Malta. He later became ambassador to Italy. He was friendly with a whole bunch of popes. And I don't recall him ever giving out anybody rosary beads.
At the same time, I can see how this issue affected Governor Healy, because I'm sure that was very dear to her, those rosary beads and stuff. So I just...
But what's it got to do with immigration?
No, but I'm just saying if she really is passionate about this issue, and she thought that this teenager had suffered because of this, okay, I'm not criticizing her on that. I just think it was a bad look, because I heard it from friends who brought it up at the golf course. I didn't bring it up. I'm just there to play golf, and these were people who tend to vote Democrat, and that's why I keep my mouth shut. Just hit the ball badly on the golf course and put down the right score. But I think that's what's going on in some people's minds, and because it is, I mean, we're talking about it here freely. We probably get criticized for bringing it up and stuff, and some people are afraid to talk about these issues because it involves religion, immigration, and stuff. But
that's why we're here.
maybe the Globe can do a survey on that.
Well, the Globe. I mean, look.
Oh, they did a story, and
you can make fun of it, but
well, I'm not making fun of it.
Mara Healy is not a saint. It's just the Globe made her a secular saint. The way it gushed all over her for doing this.
Saint Mara. So, all right, Governor Healy, good luck. All right, one other thing that I want to talk about, and the Boston Globe, and I know we hop enough on the Boston Globe every week, but it's hard to even read that paper. But to try to get the other side, the other viewpoint, I continue to do so with the Herald, the Wall Street Journal, everything I can get my hands on. But they had a story in yesterday's paper, the headline, that 33% of people in Massachusetts go to bed hungry or are food deficient. And they said 2 million people, there's 7 million people, almost 7 million people in Massachusetts now. And I said, 2 million people? I mean, I don't travel as much as I used to when I was working, but I still get around, and I don't see people, starving. And then the other statistic, I mean, it was in yesterday's Globe, and they had some charts and graphs about it. This is what I don't understand. So 33% of the people in Massachusetts were food deficient or hungry, and then another 20% were obese.
Well,
I don't know if that's...
If everybody's hungry, how come everybody's so fat?
Well, okay. So they're not eating nutritious food, and this was the point. I mean, it was an independent study and stuff. Of course, the Globe picks up on all these scary things and makes them into stories where they should be briefs, because you can't. They really survey everybody all across the.
Yeah, you're looking at it as a newspaper editor.
I know.
That's not fair.
I mean, and I'm saying to myself, and then they get to the point where they're really trying to get to. Oh, things are going to get worse because Trump is changing the rules.
It's always
SNAP,
Trump.
The welfare benefits, and they'll have to work for.
Always ends up with Trump.
They'll have to work for them. So I said, this is the real point of this story. Oh God, everybody's going to be walking in the streets like zombies because they can't eat, and there's no food. And I'm saying to myself, oh man. It's just one day after another. How can Massachusetts be such a great state? Every day there's something
if
new.
Everybody's hungry.
Aimed at Trump and what's going on and everything else. But, dial it back, Linda Henry, please. There's got to be something good going on. I mean, God, the clam cakes are still the best around. So right? But it's just... I don't know. No one, and you know what? Lowell's got some great networks, some great people. The Merrimack Valley Food Bank. You got other places that supply people with food, and they don't ask any questions. You could be making $100,000 a year, have a great life. You can go to the food bank and they'll give you a package, get you free food.
Yeah.
So it's just crazy where these stories come from, and the play that they get.
It's just amazing. It's just amazing. The newspaper's business ain't what it used to be. Let's put it that way.
No. So, what's on your calendar this week?
My calendar this weekend, I'm going to the golf course and go into the woods and pick up all the balls that you hit there. That way I don't have to buy any.
Really?
That's what I'm going to do.
Any good news? You think any good news coming out of the State House this week?
No news coming out of the State House is always good news.
Yeah. I hear you.
because
I
it
hear you,
doesn't.
'cause-
It's not going to cost you anything.
right. Leave bad enough alone.
That's right.
That's right. Leave bad enough alone.
Leave sleeping dogs lie.
I see that there's a Democrat who stepped forward, a young man from Acton, 38 years old. He was a former sports writer and a adjunct professor in Massachusetts. He's running against Senator Markey. He says he's not going to make age an issue. It's going to be Markey's record. Well,
But
that's one and the same.
Everybody knows that Markey will be 80 years old when he runs for re-election in 26. And I think he'll get more than one opponent.
You think so? On the Democrat side, just in the primary.
In the primary, I think there'll be more people running because, this whole youth movement that David Hogg started with the Democratic State Committee to primary people who are in office too long. Well, I think Eddie Markey would qualify for that. And I think that's why he'll attract competition in the primary as well as the final election. But he'll be tough to beat. He's been around a long time. He's been in public office 50 years, which is longer than most people have been alive. So he knows how to campaign and how to get elected, particularly in liberal Massachusetts. So we'll see how that goes.
Okay, I'm going to close this segment from my point. I've got a new thing that I'm going to start doing. It's going to be called a Jerk of the Week. Okay, and I know we talked about her last time, in our last show, 22-year-old Greta Thunberg. Okay, she started out as a climate activist and stuff when she was 12, 13 years old. Well, she recently, led a one-boat flotilla to Gaza. She thought she was going to get through to deliver food and stuff. Well, she was promptly, stopped by the Israeli Navy, put on a plane, sent back to Sweden. And she gets back to Sweden, and now she's saying that they mistreated her, that they wanted her to watch propaganda videos. She's showing people her wrists, that she said they put her in not handcuffs, but those ties and everything. I mean, it's all crap. This. She's 22 years old now, and she just can't get enough of publicity. Well, all I can say is, Greta, okay, no one really cares what you do anymore, okay? You had your shot. You should have been on John Kerry's secret staff there, okay, when he was the climate czar for the U.S. or something. But you know what? You had your 15 minutes of fame, and you are diminishing. Your star is like a black hole now. It's going down. It's going down.
Maybe she should run against Eddie Markey.
Yeah, I don't know what her point is anymore, but to say these lies when nothing is corroborating her, not even some of her fellow passengers. So anyway, that's it. And then the former CNN announcer Jim Acosta. We've heard of him about in the past. I mean, he was one of Trump's biggest critics, agitators. Okay. Well, he was on a podcast and show with two women, and I'm not even going to mention the name of it because I don't even want to give these people any publicity. You could look it up on YouTube and whatever. Just put his name in, Jim Acosta. Well, he was talking about Trump's, anti-illegal immigration initiatives and stuff, and he brings up Trump's wife Ivanka, who and he makes a joke about her. He says, "Well, he buried her on American soil," and mentioned that she's buried at his golf course in Bedminster, New Jersey. It was really off color. The two hosts laughed about it. I mean, this is how low they will stoop. He's out of work right now. He says he's going to be starting his own newsletter.
It's what happens when you become irrelevant in this business. You just lash out for any kind of recognition that you can get. And that's his problem in his case. He's yesterday's news, and that's where he belongs.
Yeah, but I'm just saying it's whether it's he's talking about a Democrat spouse or Republican libertarian. Like I said, I mean it was so stupid. It wasn't even and to suggest that put Ivanka in the middle of it. She's dead. She was the mother of Trump's three children, first three children, and Barron is the son of with Melania. So I mean, jerks of the week, both Greta Thunberg and Jim Acosta. And with that, anything to add?
No, I'll save my jerks for next week.
Beautiful. Well, until next week, this is the Boston Bros signing off. You have a great, peaceful, civil week. Thank you.